My son-in-law just sold my house to Amazon, except he doesn't own it. I'm standing in my kitchen listening to Blake on the phone in my backyard. He's talking numbers. Big numbers. 1.8 million. My address. The old man won't be a problem much longer, he says. I take a slow sip of my coffee. Boeing trained me for 40 years to stay calm under pressure. When you're designing aircraft systems, panic kills people. So I don't panic now, I just smile. See, Blake thinks he's dealing with some confused old widower who got lucky with real estate. What he doesn't know is that this confused old widower spent 4 decades solving problems that stumped Stanford MBAs. He wants to play games with a Boeing engineer? Let's see how he handles precision. Hit subscribe if you believe patience beats arrogance every time. By the time I was done with him, he'd be the one losing everything. And I mean everything. Let me back up 6 months. That's when the disrespect started getting systematic. My name's Bob Mitchell, 68 years old, widowed 3 years now since Linda passed from cancer. I live in a 1924 Craftsman in Wallingford. You know, that neighborhood in Seattle where Amazon's been buying up everything for corporate housing. 2,400 square feet. Zillow says it's worth $1.8 million now. I bought it for $43,000 in 1987 with my Boeing savings. My daughter Sarah works for Amazon. Software engineer, makes good money. She's 32, smart as hell, got her mother's heart and my stubborn streak. Last June, she married Blake Wellington, the third. Yeah, the third. Stanford MBA, tech startup founder, comes from one of those East Coast families where they name the kids after Roman emperors. At first, Blake seemed decent enough. Called me sir, helped with yard work, talked about building generational wealth. I thought maybe Sarah found herself a good one. Then the comments started. Dad's getting a little confused about finances. That was Blake's favorite line at family dinners. He'd say it with this concerned smile, like he was worried about my mental health. Maybe we should help him organize his paperwork. Then it was, this old house is too much work for someone your age, Bob. Always with that fake sympathy. Sarah and I could handle the maintenance issues. But what really got me was his Instagram. See, Blake loves posting about his entrepreneurial journey. 3,000 followers watching him flex about his investment strategies and managing family assets. I started screenshotting everything. Post from August 15th. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions for people who can't see the bigger picture. Number sign leadership, number sign, family first, number sign, investment, number sign, generational wealth. August 22nd. Managing elderly family members requires patience and strategic thinking. Not everyone understands modern finance. Number sign, wealth management. Number sign, family business. September 3rd. Old school thinking meets new school strategy. Sometimes the younger generation has to step up. Number sign, disruption. Number sign, property investment. Number sign, family dynamics. Every post had 50, 60 likes. His Stanford buddies commenting things like, "So mature of you, bro," and "Family leadership is hard." The pattern was clear. Blake was building a narrative. Poor Sarah, stuck between her declining father and her responsible husband. But Blake made one crucial mistake. He underestimated what 40 years at Boeing teaches you about documentation. I started keeping records. Every conversation, every helpful suggestion. Every time he talked over me or explained basic concepts like I was 5 years old, the breaking point came in October. We're at dinner, Sarah's trying to talk about some project at work, and Blake interrupts her. "Actually, babe, I think we should focus on more important things. Like your dad's living situation." He turns to me with that patronizing smile. "Sir, with respect, you're 68 and alone. Sarah and I have been talking, and we think it might be time to consider options." "Options?" I ask. "Well, this house is a lot to maintain. The property taxes alone must be killing you. And with your Boeing pension, what is that, $4,000 a month? It doesn't really make financial sense." $4,200 actually. Plus my 401k, plus Linda's life insurance, plus the Boeing stock that's done pretty well over the decades. But Blake didn't know about any of that, because I've never been the type to wave my bank statements around. "Blake," Sarah says quietly, "Dad's fine." "Is he, though?" Blake leans forward. "Honey, I love your dad, but he's from a different generation. Blue-collar guys, they're not used to thinking strategically about assets, He looks at me. No offense, Bob. You worked hard, built a good life, but managing wealth? That's what people like me do. People like him. I set down my fork. What exactly are you suggesting? Power of attorney. Just temporary, of course. Sarah and I handle the paperwork, maybe consolidate some of your assets, optimize your tax situation. We could even help you find a nice senior community, somewhere more appropriate. Sarah's face goes white. Blake, stop. But Blake's on a roll now. I'm not trying to be harsh here. I'm trying to help. My family's been managing wealth for 3 generations. My grandfather had a saying, sometimes you have to save people from themselves. I look at this 35-year-old kid, trust fund baby, who thinks 4 years at Stanford Business School makes him Warren Buffett, telling me I'm too stupid to manage money. That's interesting, I say. Your grandfather sounds wise. Blake brightens up. He was. Built the family portfolio from nothing. Nothing except his father's steel fortune, you mean? Blake's smile flickers. Well, every family has advantages. Sure do. I stand up. Thanks for dinner, kids. I need to get home. Early morning tomorrow. Dad, you don't have to, Sarah starts. It's fine, sweetheart. I kiss her forehead. Blake and I understand each other perfectly now. As I'm leaving, I hear Blake telling Sarah, see? This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's getting defensive about simple financial planning. That night, I sit in my workshop thinking about precision, about aircraft systems, about what happens when one component thinks it can override the whole system without understanding how everything connects. Time to show Blake what happens when you mess with an engineer who's been solving complex problems since before you were born. Should I continue with part 3? 2 weeks later, I'm in my garage working on a vintage radio when I hear Blake's voice through the back fence. He's in his yard talking loud enough that I can catch every word. Washington's a one-party consent state for recordings, by the way. Boeing taught us to document everything for safety reasons. Old habits. I pull out my phone and hit record. Yeah, Trevor, the plan's moving faster than I thought, Blake says. He's talking to someone on speaker sounds like one of his Harvard buddies. The old man's definitely losing it. Sarah's starting to see it too. I stop working on the radio. This is about to get interesting. How much is the property worth again? Trevor asks. Zillow estimate is $1.8 million, but in this market? Probably closer to 2. Prime Wallingford location, walking distance to Amazon's new campus. I've already had 3 developers reach out about corporate housing projects. Wait, developers are calling you? Well, they're calling the house. I've been handling the inquiries. Bob gets confused by business calls these days. That's a lie. I handle my own phone calls just fine. Dude, that's brilliant, Trevor says. So what's the timeline? I'm thinking 6 months, maybe less. I need to get power of attorney first. Then we can start the paperwork. Once I control his assets, I can force a sale. My shell company buys it at a discount, say 1.4. Then we flip it to Amazon for the full $2 million. 600,000 profit just like that. More, actually. I've been talking to this guy at Amazon's real estate division. They're planning a $15 million corporate housing project for this whole block. My property would be the centerpiece. I feel my jaw clench. My property. What about Sarah? Trevor asks. Blake laughs. It's not a nice sound. Sarah's a sweetheart, but she's got that Asian guilt thing about taking care of her parents. She'll resist at first, but once I show her the numbers, she'll come around. Besides, her dad's just a blue-collar guy who got lucky with Boeing stock. He doesn't understand wealth management. Just a blue-collar guy. Still, Trevor says, seems risky. What if he fights you on it? Fight me? Dude, the guy designs airplane parts. I have an MBA from Stanford. I've been managing my family's portfolio since I was 25. This is literally what I do. If you say so. But what if... Look, I've done my research. Bob Mitchell, 68 years old, widowed, no other kids, declining cognitive function. Classic case for elder financial abuse prevention. Any judge would approve the power of attorney transfer, especially with my credentials. Elder financial abuse prevention. He's going to use elder abuse laws to abuse an elder. The irony would be funny if it weren't so sick. Plus, Blake continues, I've been documenting everything. Instagram posts about his confusion, testimonials from Sarah about his declining independence. I'm building a bulletproof case that he needs help managing his affairs. You've been planning this for months. Since before I married Sarah, honestly, I mean, I love her, don't get me wrong, but when I found out about the house, Blake pauses. Let's just say it influenced my decision to propose. My daughter. He married my daughter for real estate. Savage, Trevor says, laughing. So, when do you make your move? I'm meeting with my lawyer next week to draft the power of attorney papers. Then I'll present them to Bob as routine financial planning. Once that's signed, game over. I figure by Christmas I'll be shopping for my own place in Bellevue. Something with a view. And Bob? There are plenty of nice senior communities in Tacoma. Much more affordable. He'll be happier there anyway, around people his own age who understand him better. People his own age, like I'm some confused old man who needs to be put away. All right, man, I gotta run, Trevor says, but seriously. This is genius. You're like the Wolf of Wall Street, but for in-laws. Just good business sense, Blake says. Sometimes you have to think strategically about family resources. My grandfather always said wealth flows to those who know how to manage it. The call ends. I stand there in my garage, looking at my phone showing 43 minutes of recorded conversation. Fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit grand theft, marriage under false pretenses. Blake just confessed to multiple felonies while standing in my backyard. I walk back into my house and sit down at my kitchen table. Same table where Linda and I planned Sarah's college fund. Same table where we celebrated her Amazon job offer. Same table where Blake asked for my blessing to marry her. Of course you have my blessing, I told him that day. Sarah's happiness is all that matters to me. I meant that. I still mean it. But Blake Wellington III just made a critical engineering error. He assumed the system he was trying to hack was simple. Old man, old house, easy target. What he didn't factor in was 40 years of Boeing training. We don't just build aircraft that fly. We build aircraft that don't crash when someone tries to break them. I pull up my contacts and scroll to Jim Rodriguez, my neighbor, retired FBI agent, good friend since Linda's funeral. We've had a few beers over the back fence, swapped stories about work. Time to have a different kind of conversation. I hit call. Hey, Jim, I say when he picks up. You got a few minutes? I need some advice about something, professional advice. Jim comes over that night with 2 beers and the kind of serious expression I remember from my Boeing security briefings. Play it again, he says after listening to the recording twice. I hit replay on Blake's conversation. Jim takes notes in a small black notebook. The kind FBI guys never seem to stop caring even after retirement. Wire fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, attempted grand theft. Jim ticks off charges on his fingers. And if he's been forging signatures for power of attorney, that's felony fraud in Washington state. So I can nail him? Absolutely. But Bob, Jim sets down his beer. Are you sure you want to go this route? This destroys Sarah's marriage. I've been thinking about that all afternoon. My daughter, who lights up when she talks about her work, who still calls me every Sunday, who brought Blake home like he was some kind of prize. She married a con artist, Jim. He's not planning to just steal my house. He's planning to put me in a nursing home in Tacoma so he can live in Bellevue. Yeah, I caught that part. Jim flips through his notes. You said he's been meeting with developers? Claims he has. Says Amazon's planning some $15 million corporate housing project. I can verify that. Still have contacts at the Bureau's white-collar unit. Jim pauses. But there's something else we need to discuss. If Blake's been intercepting business calls to your house, that's mail fraud. Federal crime. Federal crime. That gets my attention. What do you need from me? Evidence. Real evidence. Not just recordings. Bank records. Any documents he's touched. Proof of the developer meetings. Jim closes his notebook. And we need to be smart about this. Blake thinks he's the only one playing chess here. After Jim leaves, I sit in my workshop until midnight, thinking through the problem like it's an aircraft system failure. When a component starts acting unpredictably, you don't just fix the immediate problem. You trace every connection, every input and output, until you understand the whole failure cascade. Blake's not just threatening me. He's threatening my daughter's future, my family's stability, my wife's memory. This house isn't just real estate. It's where Linda and I built our life, where Sarah grew up, where 3 generations of family history live. I pull out a legal pad and start making lists. First, Blake's vulnerabilities. I do some digging online. His startup, Wellington Digital Solutions. Shows a fancy website, but no actual clients I can find. LinkedIn says he's seeking Series A funding for 18 months running. His family money? I check public records. The Wellington Family Trust exists, but it's been paying for Blake's lifestyle, not growing. He's leveraged up to his eyeballs. Second, his allies. That Stanford network he's always name-dropping. They're all struggling 2 startups that never launched. Consulting firms with 3 clients. Investment funds that exist mostly on paper. Blake's not connected to real power. He's connected to people pretending to have power. Third, his mistakes. The Instagram posts, the phone call. But there's more. I find property records showing someone's been requesting information about my house. Guess whose name is on the requests? Blake Wellington III, listing himself as property manager. Property manager for a house he doesn't own or manage. I make another list. My advantages: 40 years of engineering documentation habits, a clean financial record, an FBI friend, a daughter who, despite everything, still trusts her old man more than she trusts anyone else, and something Blake doesn't know about: Linda's life insurance policy, $500,000 invested conservatively that I've never touched. Money Blake has no idea exists. By 2 a.m., I have a plan. It's not revenge. Revenge is emotional, sloppy, satisfying in the moment, but ultimately ineffective. This is what we call failure analysis in engineering. You identify the faulty component, you document its failure modes, and you design a system that prevents it from causing catastrophic damage. Blake wants to play financial games? Fine, but he's about to discover that when you try to hack a system, you better understand what you're hacking. I've spent 4 decades designing systems that don't fail when someone tries to break them. Aircraft systems where one mistake kills 300 people. Where precision isn't just important, it's life and death. Blake thinks he's dealing with a confused old man who doesn't understand modern finance. He's about to learn what happens when a Boeing engineer applies 40 years of problem-solving experience to a very personal problem. Game on, Blake Wellington III. Let's see how your Stanford MBA handles precision engineering. Monday morning, I drive to my bank Puget Sound Credit Union, where I've banked for 37 years. I asked to speak with Jennifer, the branch manager who handled Linda's life insurance paperwork. I need to review some security on my accounts, I tell her, and I need copies of any requests for information about my financial records in the past year. Jennifer's face goes serious. Is there a problem, Mr. Mitchell? Potentially. Someone's been representing themselves as my property manager. I want to know if they've tried to access my banking information. 30 minutes later, I'm looking at 3 requests for account information, all submitted online, all claiming to be from Blake Wellington, authorized representative for Robert Mitchell. Identity theft. In writing, with digital timestamps. I never authorized this, I tell Jennifer. I need to file a formal complaint. Absolutely. We'll flag your accounts immediately and start the fraud investigation. One more thing. I want to change all my passwords and security questions, and I want alerts on any attempt to access my information. Of course. Would you like us to contact the police? Already handled. I give her Jim's contact information. He's coordinating with the FBI on this. Jennifer's eyes widen. FBI. That gets people's attention. Next stop, King County Property Records Office. I file a formal complaint about unauthorized property information requests. Then I visit my lawyer, Patricia Wong, who's been handling my legal stuff since Linda passed. Patricia, I need you to draft something for me. A letter to any real estate developers who might have been contacted about my property. I want it clear that I'm the sole owner, I haven't authorized any sales discussions, and anyone claiming to represent me is committing fraud. Has someone been impersonating you? My son-in-law. He's been telling developers he's my property manager. Patricia raises an eyebrow. That's bold. Okay, I can draft that today. Should I mention criminal charges? Absolutely. Make it clear that we're working with law enforcement. That afternoon, I install security cameras around my property. Nothing fancy, just a basic system that records to cloud storage. Legal in Washington as long as they don't point at neighboring properties. Then I do something Blake doesn't expect. I post on social media. See, Blake thinks I'm some old guy who doesn't understand technology, What he doesn't know is that Boeing moved to digital documentation in the 90s. I've been using computers longer than he's been alive. I create a Facebook post, public, tagged with Wallingford neighborhood groups. Heads up, neighbors, someone has been impersonating me to real estate. Developers, claiming to be my property manager and discussing potential sales of my home. I have not authorized anyone to represent me in real estate matters. If you've been contacted about property sales in our neighborhood by someone claiming to work for me, please contact me directly. This matter is being investigated by law enforcement. Bob Mitchell, 1847 North 42nd Street. The post gets 43 comments in 2 hours. Neighbors sharing similar stories. Turns out Blake's been busy telling multiple people he's helping an elderly neighbor with property management. Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down writes, I was wondering about that young man who stopped by asking about property values. Said he was handling affairs for the gentleman at 1847. Seemed odd. Mr. Kumar adds, same guy approached me about selling to developers for corporate housing. Had business cards and everything, business cards. Blake's been carrying business cards claiming to represent me. That evening, Sarah calls. Dad, what's this Facebook post about? Blake says you're causing problems with some kind of misunderstanding. Sweetheart, there's no misunderstanding. Blake's been telling people he's my property manager. He's been requesting my bank records. He's been meeting with developers about selling my house. Silence on the other end. That can't be right. Blake would have told me if he was helping with your finances. Would he? When's the last time he discussed my finances with you directly? Another pause. Well, he mentioned that you might need help organizing your paperwork. Sarah, I need you to ask Blake something for me. Ask him about Wellington Digital Solutions client list. Ask him about the property information requests he submitted to the county. Ask him about his meetings with Amazon's real estate division. Dad, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared, but not of me. I hang up and check my email. Patricia's letter went out to 12 real estate development firms in Seattle. 3 have already responded, confirming they were contacted by Blake Wellington, property representative for Robert Mitchell. All 3 meetings happened while I was at my Thursday morning physical therapy appointments. Blake knew my schedule. My phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number. Mr. Mitchell, this is David Park from Cascade Development. We received your lawyer's letter today. We had no idea Mr. Wellington wasn't authorized to represent you. We have records of our meeting and his business proposal, if you need them for your investigation. Business proposal. Blake pitched my house to developers with a formal business proposal. I forward the text to Jim, then pour myself a bourbon. Linda's favorite, Maker's Mark, and sit in my chair by the window. Blake's probably getting phone calls right now, developers backing out, lawyers asking questions. Reality's starting to intrude on his perfect little scheme. But this is just the appetizer. Tomorrow, Blake's going to realize he picked the wrong engineer to mess with. I raise my glass toward the empty chair where Linda used to sit. Wish you were here to see this, honey. Our son-in-law's about to get a real education. Blake shows up at my door Tuesday night, face red, hands shaking. Sarah's behind him, looking confused and worried. What the hell do you think you're doing? Blake shouts before I even get the door fully open. Come in, I say calmly. Let's talk about it. We sit in my living room, Blake on the edge of the couch like he's ready to bolt, Sarah next to him but keeping distance, me in my chair. The same chair where I told Sarah bedtime stories when she was 5. Dad, Sarah says quietly, Blake says you've been spreading lies about him online. Lies? I look at Blake. Which part was a lie? The part where you requested my bank records without permission? Or the part where you've been meeting with developers claiming to be my property manager? Blake's jaw works like he's chewing something bitter. Those were preliminary inquiries. Market research. I was trying to help you understand your options. By impersonating me? I never impersonated anyone. I told people I was family, that I was looking into potential opportunities for you. I reach into my folder and pull out a printout. David Park from Cascade Development says you introduced yourself as my authorized property representative and presented a business proposal for selling my house to Amazon. Blake's face goes white. That's not... You also gave him business cards. Wellington Property Management, representing Robert Mitchell. Want to explain where you got those printed? Sarah turns to stare at her husband. Blake, you have business cards? Honey, it's not what it sounds like. I was just exploring options, trying to help your dad maximize his investment. Blake, my voice cuts through his babbling. Show Sarah the business cards. I don't have them with me. Show her the Instagram posts about managing elderly family members. Dad, stop, Sarah says, but her voice is uncertain now. Show her the email chain with Trevor about buying my house through a shell company. Blake stands up fast. I don't have to listen to this paranoid bullshit. Sir, with respect, you're clearly having some kind of episode. Sarah, we should go. Sit down, Blake. My voice carries 40 years of authority, the tone I used when some hotshot engineer tried to cut corners on safety protocols. Blake sits. Son, I spent 4 decades designing systems that don't fail when someone tries to break them. You think I haven't been documenting everything? I tap my folder. Bank fraud complaints, property record violations, FBI investigation, 3 lawyers' letters to real estate firms, and 43 minutes of recorded conversation where you admit to planning marriage fraud. Blake's mouth opens and closes like a fish. Dad? Sarah's voice is small. What recording? I look at my daughter, really look at her. 32 years old, brilliant, kind, sitting next to a man who married her for real estate equity. Sweetheart, Blake had a very interesting phone call with his Harvard buddy Trevor. Want to hear it? Don't you dare, Blake snarls. That's illegal recording, invasion of privacy. Washington's a one-party consent state, Blake. I can record any conversation I'm involved in, and when you're talking in my backyard loud enough for me to hear. I shrug. Well, that makes me involved. As Sarah looks back and forth between us. Someone needs to tell me what's happening. Right now. Blake stands again, grabs her hand. Sarah, your father is having some kind of breakdown. We need to leave before he does something crazy. The only thing crazy here, I say, is thinking you could steal the Boeing engineer's house and get away with it. Blake's mask finally slips completely. You arrogant old bastard. You think you're so smart? I have connections you can't even imagine. My family has lawyers who eat blue-collar retirees for breakfast. There it is. The real Blake Wellington III. Sarah pulls her hand away from his. Blake, what the hell? This isn't over, Blake tells me, pointing a shaking finger. You have no idea who you're messing with. I smile. Actually, Blake, I know exactly who I'm messing with. The question is, do you? Blake doesn't wait long to fire back. By Thursday morning, his social media campaign is in full swing. Dealing with elder abuse is harder than anyone talks about. He posts on Instagram with a photo of himself looking concerned and thoughtful. When family members become paranoid and aggressive, sometimes tough love is the only answer. Praying for wisdom in difficult family situations. Hashtag elder care, hashtag family first. Tough choices. 47 likes in 2 hours. Comments pouring in from his Stanford network. Stay strong, bro. You're doing the right thing. Elder paranoia is so common. Have you considered professional intervention? My grandfather went through the same thing. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions for people who can't think clearly anymore. But Blake's not done. He starts posting photos. A picture of my front porch, where some paint is peeling. When elderly family members can't maintain their homes anymore, it becomes a safety issue. Hashtag elder safety, hashtag family responsibility. A photo of my driveway, where I've got my old Buick parked. Vehicle maintenance is often one of the first signs of declining cognitive function. Hashtag elder care, hashtag safety first. Even a picture of my workshop window taken from his backyard, hoarding behaviors and projects that never get finished are classic warning signs. Number elder abuse, number intervention, number tough love, my workshop, where I restore vintage electronics and build furniture. Blake's calling it hoarding. By Friday, he's escalated to the neighborhood Facebook group. Hi neighbors, this is Blake Wellington. Many of you know me as Sarah Mitchell's husband. I want to address some concerning posts that have appeared recently about my father-in-law. Bob Mitchell has been showing signs of increasing confusion and paranoia over the past few months. He's been making false accusations about family members and neighbors, claiming people are conspiring against him. As his family, we're trying to get him the help he needs, but he's resistant to professional intervention. If he approaches you with strange stories or accusations, please understand that he's struggling with cognitive decline. We appreciate your patience and understanding during this difficult time. Hashtag Wallingford, community, #eldercare, #family support. The post gets mixed reactions. Some neighbors who don't know me well start commenting with sympathy for Blake's difficult situation, but others push back hard. Mrs. Patterson writes, I've known Bob Mitchell for 15 years. He's one of the sharpest people in this neighborhood. This post concerns me. Jim Rodriguez, my FBI friend, adds, I've worked with Bob in several community projects. His cognitive function is excellent. These allegations seem inconsistent with documented facts. Mr. Kumar from down the street, Bob Mitchell helped me fix my electrical problems last month. Diagnosed the issue faster than the electrician I called. Nothing wrong with his thinking. But Blake's got his supporters. His cousin from Bellevue posts, Blake is such a caring son-in-law. It's so hard when elderly family members refuse help. Trevor from Harvard chimes in, financial paranoia is a classic early sign. Blake's handling this with such grace. The battle lines are drawn. Blake's playing the concerned family member dealing with a declining elder. I'm playing the role of paranoid old man making false accusations. Except I have evidence. Saturday morning, I make my own Facebook post. Short, simple, factual. Update on recent neighborhood concerns. King County Sheriff's Department has opened a formal investigation into identity, theft, and fraud related to my property. 3 real estate development firms have confirmed they were approached by an individual falsely claiming to represent me in property sales. The FBI Economic Crimes Division is reviewing evidence of potential wire fraud. I appreciate neighbors' concerns about my well-being. For the record, I remain in excellent health and fully capable of managing my affairs. Anyone with information about unauthorized real estate solicitation in our neighborhood should contact Detective Maria Santos at King County Sheriff's Economic Crimes Unit. Case number 2024 EC4782. Bob Mitchell. The neighborhood Facebook group goes quiet for about an hour. Then the tide turns. Mrs. Patterson. I'm calling Detective Santos about that young man who came to my door. Mr. Kumar. Same here. I kept his business card. Jim Rodriguez posts a simple comment. The investigation's real. Evidence is being reviewed at federal level. Blake's cousin deletes her supportive comment. Trevor's comment disappears too. Blake makes one last desperate post. The Mitchell family asks for privacy during this difficult investigation. Misunderstandings will be resolved soon. Family first privacy. But it's too late. The neighborhood has picked sides, and they've picked mine. Sunday evening, Sarah calls. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Always, sweetheart. Is there really an FBI investigation? Yes. Long pause. And Blake really tried to steal your house? Yes. Play me the recording, Dad. I need to hear it. Sunday night, Sarah comes over alone. She sits at my kitchen table, the same spot where she used to do homework in high school, while I pull out everything I've documented over the past 6 months. Before you hear the recording, I tell her, I want you to understand something. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this to protect both of us. Sarah nods, but her hands are shaking. Just play it, Dad. I hit play on Blake's conversation with Trevor. 43 minutes of her husband discussing marriage fraud, elder abuse, and property theft. Like he's planning a weekend barbecue. Sarah makes it through about 20 minutes before she starts crying. When Blake says, I love her, don't get me wrong, but when I found out about the house, she puts her head in her hands. Oh God, Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sweetheart, this isn't your fault. How long have you known? I suspected something after that dinner in October. I knew for sure when I heard this conversation 2 weeks ago. Sarah wipes her eyes and straightens up. What else do you have? For the next 2 hours, we go through everything. I've organized it like an engineering failure analysis. Every component of Blake's scheme documented with precision. Bank records showing the 3 fraudulent information requests, with timestamps and digital signatures Blake forged. Screenshots of 17 Instagram posts over 6 months, building a narrative about my declining cognition and his family leadership responsibilities. Email printouts from 5 real estate development firms confirming meetings with Blake Wellington, authorized property representative for Robert Mitchell. Photos of the business cards Blake had printed. Wellington Property Management, representing Robert Mitchell, Wallingford Properties. Property records showing 13 unauthorized information requests, all submitted by Blake using falsified authorization. Text messages between Blake and developers discussing Amazon corporate housing opportunities and portfolio optimization for elderly family member. Financial documents Blake requested from my credit union, claiming power of attorney he never had. And the recording of Blake's conversation, where he admits to marriage fraud, conspiracy to commit grand theft, and plans to forcibly relocate me to senior communities in Tacoma. Jesus, Dad, Sarah says, looking at the evidence spread across the table. This is insane. He's been planning this since before we got married? According to his own words, yes. Sarah picks up one of the fake business cards. Wellington Property Management. He made fake business cards with your name on them. Patricia, my lawyer, says that's criminal impersonation under Washington state law. Felony charge. And the bank stuff? Identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit financial elder abuse. Jim says the federal charges alone could mean 10 to 15 years. Sarah stares at the evidence pile. How much money was he trying to steal? I pull out the financial analysis I prepared. Conservative estimate? He planned to buy the house through his shell company for $1.4 million, then flip it to Amazon for $2 million. $600,000 profit, plus whatever he could steal from my other accounts before I figured it out. Your other accounts? Boeing pension, 401k, Linda's life insurance money I never touched. About $800,000 total that Blake doesn't know exists. Sarah's face goes white. He was trying to steal almost $1.5 million and put me in a nursing home so I couldn't stop him. This is grand theft. This is... Sarah stops, thinking. Dad, why didn't you just call the police immediately? Because I needed to protect you too. If I'd called the police after overhearing one conversation, Blake could have claimed it was a misunderstanding. He could have manipulated you into believing I was paranoid or confused. I needed ironclad evidence that would protect both of us. Sarah nods slowly, like building a case, like engineering a solution. In aircraft design, we don't just fix the immediate problem. We fix the system so the problem can't happen again. What happens now? I gather the documents back into organized folders. Now we finish this properly. Jim's scheduled a meeting with the FBI Economic Crimes Unit for Tuesday morning. Patricia's filing criminal charges with the prosecutor's office. The evidence speaks for itself. And Blake? Blake made his choices, sweetheart. Every forged signature, every fake business card, every lie to developers, those were his decisions. I just documented them. Sarah looks around the kitchen at the photos of her and Linda on the walls, at the table where we've shared so many family meals. I can't believe I almost lost all this, she says quietly. You didn't lose it. You saved it, by trusting your father instead of your husband when it mattered most. Tuesday morning, I tell Blake we need to have a family meeting at my house. There are some documents that need signing, I say. Financial planning stuff you've been pushing for. Bring your notary friend, we'll make it official. Blake shows up at 2 p.m. with a leather briefcase, a smug smile, and a notary public named Janet Morrison. He thinks this is his victory lap. Sarah's already here, sitting quietly at the kitchen table, but Blake doesn't know she's heard the recording yet. Finally ready to be reasonable about this, Bob, Blake says, setting his briefcase on my coffee table like he owns the place. Oh, I'm being very reasonable. The doorbell rings. That'll be my witnesses, I say. Blake frowns. Witnesses? I open the door to let in Jim Rodriguez, my lawyer Patricia Wong, Detective Maria Santos from King County Sheriff's Economic Crimes Unit, and Special Agent Rebecca Mitchell. No relation, just a coincidence, from the FBI's Seattle field office. Blake's face goes from smug to confused to panicked in about 3 seconds. What is this? He stammers. This, I say, is what we call due process. Detective Santos steps forward. Mr. Wellington, I'm Detective Santos, King County Sheriff's Office. We'd like to ask you some questions about recent financial activities related to Mr. Mitchell's property. I don't understand. We're here for a family meeting. We are, I say. The whole family, including law enforcement. Blake looks at Sarah. Honey, what's going on? Why didn't you tell me about this? Sarah meets his eyes steadily. Because you've been lying to me for 8 months, Blake. About everything. Lying, Sarah, your father's clearly having some kind of episode. I heard the recording, Blake. Blake goes dead silent. The color drains from his face like someone pulled a plug. What recording? He asks, but his voice is barely a whisper. Agent Mitchell opens her folder. Mr. Wellington, we have a 43-minute recorded conversation between you and Trevor Morrison, dated 2 weeks ago, in which you discuss multiple felonies related to Mr. Mitchell's property and finances. That was a private conversation. You can't... Washington is a one-party consent state, Patricia says calmly. Mr. Mitchell was legally entitled to record any conversation he could overhear from his own property. Jim steps forward. Blake, you confessed to conspiracy to commit grand theft, identity theft, wire fraud, and marriage under false pretenses. All federal crimes. You said you married my daughter to steal my house, I add quietly. Blake's breathing gets fast and shallow. No, that's not... That was taken out of context. I was exploring options for the family's financial benefit. Detective Santos pulls out her own folder. Mr. Wellington, we also have evidence of forged signature attempts on 3 separate bank information requests, business cards printed with Mr. Mitchell's name without authorization, and meetings with 5 real estate development firms where you falsely represented yourself as Mr. Mitchell's property manager. Those were market research. Market research, Agent Mitchell interrupts. You submitted formal business proposals to Amazon's corporate housing division using stolen property information. Blake looks around the room like a trapped animal. His lawyer training kicks in, never admit anything, deny everything. I want a lawyer, he says. Smart choice, Patricia says. You're going to need a good one. The notary, Janet Morrison, looks absolutely terrified. I had no idea. Mr. Wellington told me this was routine estate planning. Detective Santos nods. Ma'am, you're not in any trouble. We understand you were misled about the nature of these documents. I pick up Blake's briefcase and open it. Inside are power of attorney papers, property transfer documents, and what looks like a sales contract to something called Wellington Holdings, LLC. Interesting, I say, holding up the sales contract. Blake, you brought paperwork to sell my house to yourself for $1.2 million. That's $600,000 under market value. That's just a preliminary proposal for discussion. Discussion? Sarah's voice cuts like ice. You brought a notary to make it legal right now. Blake turns to her, desperation replacing arrogance. Sarah, baby, please. You don't understand how complicated this is. Your father can't handle managing assets this valuable. I was trying to protect the family's financial future. By stealing it? By optimizing it. My family's been managing wealth for generations. We know how to... Your family's been managing what wealth? Agent Mitchell asks. Mr. Wellington, our investigation shows the Wellington Family Trust has been liquidating assets to cover your startup debts for 2 years. You're personally leveraged for over $400,000. Blake's mouth opens and closes. His perfect Stanford boy persona is cracking like cheap paint. Furthermore, Detective Santos adds, we have testimonials from 3 neighbors stating you approached them about property sales, claiming to represent Mr. Mitchell in real estate transactions. And, Patricia says, we have Instagram posts spanning 6 months where you documented your campaign to portray Mr. T.H. Mitchell and as cognitively impaired, clearly building a case for financial guardianship. I walk over to Blake, who's now sitting on my couch, looking like he's about to vomit. Blake, I say quietly, you made one crucial mistake. You assumed I was just some confused old man who got lucky with real estate. What you didn't factor in was 40 years of Boeing engineering training. What does that mean? It means when someone tries to hack one of my systems, I don't just fix the immediate problem. I analyze every failure point, document every vulnerability, and design a solution that prevents the attack from ever working again. Blake stares at me. You planned this whole thing? I documented your crimes as you committed them. There's a difference. Agent Mitchell stands up. Mr. Wellington, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted grand theft. You have the right to remain silent. As she reads Blake his rights, he looks at Sarah one last time. Sarah, please. I love you. This is all a misunderstanding. Sarah stands up, walks over to him, and looks him in the eye. Blake, You married me to steal my father's house. You recorded conversations to build an elder abuse case. You planned to put him in a nursing home in Tacoma so you could live in Bellevue with a view. That's not... It's exactly what you said to Trevor. Word for word. Sarah's voice is steady, but her hands are shaking. You called my dad just a blue-collar guy who got lucky. You said I had that Asian guilt thing about taking care of parents. Blake's face crumples. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. That's exactly what you meant. Sarah pulls off her wedding ring and sets it on the coffee table next to his briefcase. We're done, Blake. Completely done. As Detective Santos leads Blake away in handcuffs, he turns back one more time. This isn't over, old man. My family has connections. Lawyers, you have no idea who you're messing with. I smile. Actually, Blake, I know exactly who I'm messing with. The question was always whether you knew who you were messing with. The door closes behind them. The house goes quiet, except for Sarah crying softly at the kitchen table. You okay, sweetheart? I ask. No, she says, but I will be. Thanks to you. 3 months later, Blake Wellington III is sitting in federal prison awaiting trial on wire fraud charges. The state charges identity theft, forgery, attempted grand theft are stacked on top like a house of cards. His Stanford lawyer couldn't make the evidence disappear. Hard to argue with 43 minutes of recorded confessions and a paper trail that reads like a how-to manual for elder financial abuse. Sarah's divorce was finalized last week. Washington's a no-fault state, but fraud invalidates prenups. Blake gets nothing. Sarah keeps her Amazon stock, her 401k, and her dignity. The Wellington Family Trust? Turns out it was mostly smoke and mirrors anyway. Blake's startup folded when his investors found out about the criminal charges. His East Coast connections dried up overnight. Amazing how fast Stanford MBA networks disappear when federal agents start asking questions. My house is still mine. $1.8 million of family history that stays in the family. The security system stays too. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I'm not stupid. Blake's not the only con artist in Seattle who thinks old widowers make easy targets. Sarah moved back into her old bedroom for a few weeks while she apartment hunted. It was nice having her around again, even under these circumstances. She found a place in Capitol Hill close enough to visit, far enough to rebuild her independence. I should have seen it, she told me one evening over dinner. The signs were all there. Sweetheart, predators are good at what they do. They study their marks. Blake spent 2 years learning exactly what you wanted to hear. How did you know? 40 years of engineering problems. When something doesn't fit the system specs, you investigate. Blake never fit our family specs, I just needed time to prove it. The neighborhood Facebook group nominated me for Neighbor of the Year. Apparently, stopping a real estate fraud scheme makes you popular with homeowners who don't want developers circling their properties like vultures. Jim Rodriguez and I still share beers over the back fence. We don't talk about Blake much anymore. Some problems, once solved, don't need revisiting. But Sarah and I have new boundaries now. She knows she can trust her old man to handle business when it matters. And I know my daughter will choose family over fraud when the chips are down. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just showing someone exactly who they're dealing with. Game over, Blake. The engineer won.